In this video, we're going to be discussing the Lesson 2.7 Mastery Check prompt and how to approach your response. So something I've noticed is I feel like students are relying too heavily on sentence stems and paragraph frames and not really understanding what the prompts are asking you and having a deep understanding of what the text is saying in order to be able to answer that prompt. So rather than providing a paragraph frame where you're just filling in the blanks, we're going to take a look at the prompt, make sure we understand all of the parts, and then what do you need to include in your response in order to satisfy what the prompt is asking you to do. This right here, the graphic organizer, these are notes for you, so you can write as much or as little as you need to in order to be able to identify these things. If you want to put the whole quote, you can. If you want to just write a couple words, if you want to paraphrase, whatever, just know that this is to support you before you start drafting your CER response. So first we're going to read the prompt and then look at the parts. So in a well-written paragraph, explain how the initial interactions between the Igbo community and the Christian missionaries results in cultural conflict. That's everything we talked about while we were closely reading and annotating the excerpts. Consider the reactions of key characters such as Okonkwo and Nwoye and how these interactions illustrate the clash between traditional Igbo beliefs and the influence of Christianity. Use textual evidence from the chapters 14 through 16 excerpts to support your response and explain your reasoning. So in your claim, you are answering this part of the prompt here. Explain how the initial interactions, yada, yada. So taking that, turning it into a question that we're going to answer is, how do the initial interactions between the Igbo community and the Christian missionaries result in cultural conflict? Well, in order to be able to provide a claim about that, we have to see what happens in the text that shows us. So we're going to skip over the claim part for now and take a look at the evidence. So in the text, what are Okonkwo's and Nwoye's reactions to the Christian missionaries? Where do we see those initial interactions between the Igbo and the Christians, and how does that eventually result in cultural conflict? So take a look at the excerpt, identify where do we see Okonkwo responding to the colonists, and where do we see Nwoye responding? So what does Okonkwo say and do and feel? What does Nwoye say and do and feel? Once you have this written in, then we're going to take a look at the claim. So go ahead and pause the video here and identify those parts of the text and write them in here. Now that you have identified Okonkwo's and Nwoye's reactions to the Christian missionaries, now we're going to take a look at how those initial interactions result in cultural conflict. So we should see a big contrast between Okonkwo's response and Nwoye's response. And because of those responses, there is a cultural conflict. So because the Christians have arrived, people within the Igbo community are questioning the structures, the traditions, the values, beliefs of the Igbo people. So Okonkwo sees the Christians' teachings and their systems and rejects them, whereas Nwoye is interested and wants to move toward that. We discussed, Okonkwo and Nwoye's relationship is already fractured, so we can imagine that Nwoye rejecting the Igbo, the beliefs, in addition to his relationship with Okonkwo, is going to result in more conflict. So how do those initial interactions between the Igbo community and the Christian missionaries result in cultural conflict? It's resulting in some of the Igbo doubting the Igbo traditions. It's calling into question what those Igbo traditions are and whether that's something that's valid and should actually be followed, or if there is a better way. We've already identified the text evidence here, and then for your reasoning, you're going to be explaining how those reactions or those interactions with the Christian missionaries illustrates a clash between the beliefs and the Igbo beliefs and the beliefs of the Christians. So based on Okonkwo and Nwoye's responses, how does that result in a clash between cultures?